Arizona Cardinals plan to try and trade all-pro receiver DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. Hopkins has 2 years and $34 million left on his contract and is likely to seek a new deal.
Let's go.
Owner Michael Bidwill plans to express this to general manager candidates.
DeAndre Hopkins has a no-trade clause. DeAndre Hopkins, as it says right there in the tweet, will probably want a new deal. So that means you would rip up maybe these couple of years and start him fresh on something.
Or just add years.
Add a year or two.
Yeah.
I know he is old. He is 30.
He'll be 31 before next season starts.
But he is still DeAndre Hopkins. And if you watched those games in the middle of the year especially, like he was injured at the beginning, or excuse me, suspended at the beginning of the year, and then injured and slowed down a little bit towards the end of the year. But if you watched any of those games or say had him on your fantasy team, you'd notice somewhere between 10 and 14 targets in a game. And him coming back and helping out Kyler Murray. This is a guy who knows what the hell he's doing. We know about the Guagi, the elite Guagi. And here's the thing. All right, so say you have to pay. You've been talking about this, Danny, how the Bears have all the financial assets. I don't think you're going to have to give up a haul for 30-year-old DeAndre Hopkins who wants an extension and is going to waive his no-trade clause for a rebuilding team with a new coach and a GM. Third-round pick?
Maybe, yeah. It won't be a first, and I don't think it'll be a second.
I don't think it's a second.
It depends. Yeah.
It's money, but you have money.
You have money. The extension thing would be a little interesting to me. Like how much of it could you do of, hey, man, we can give you a big signing bonus. We're not terribly interested in having you definitively on the books for your 34 and 35 age season. We don't really want to have guaranteed money 4 and 5 years from now, but we'll take your current contract.
Yeah.
We'll add a year to it, and we'll give you,
and we'll have a team option at the end of it too.
Yeah, sure, and we'll just give you a $15 million signing bonus.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you get a check tomorrow for $15 million.
And you know these deals are structured that way all the time in the NFL. Now he's got to choose because he has the no trade clause. He's got to choose the Bears.
I'd be surprised if he did. That's the part of it. The no trade clause of when he's going to be 31, how many years of his prime does he have left? There are so many teams that would want him. I would just be surprised if he wants to go to a team that isn't playing in a Super Bowl next year.
I understand.
Why would you not go play with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay? You know, why would you not go play with Pat Mahomes in Kansas City? Why would you not go play?
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster is a free agent, and if he moves on, then maybe they have a slot.
Yeah, well, I mean, any team would. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is still awesome. Like he'd be an upgrade for literally every team in the league. So any team could, if they could afford the contract, could have the slot.
If you have so much more money than everybody, then whichever target it is, let's say Mike Evans becomes available too if Brady leaves Tampa.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm just saying the no trade clause makes it difficult, particularly for DeAndre Hopkins.
I agree.
There are some guys that free agents, they go to the money, and trades, NFL players don't often have that type of veto power and flexibility. So that's the only reason why I would think it is not terribly likely to happen. But if it's the type of thing where, hey, we're going to let your agent, we don't even have a GM right now. So we'll let your agent
work it out,
explore the contract. And then the agent comes back and is like, hey, man, I called the Bears, and they're coming in $10 million in guaranteed money higher than everybody else.
That's what I'm saying.
Then all of a sudden, maybe, money talks.
And if Brian Poles doesn't want DeAndre Hopkins, if he'd rather do it with somebody who's a little younger or somebody who's, in a slightly different situation, okay. But if you need to overpay a little bit, this is your moment to do that in terms of guaranteed money, signing bonus with your flexibility.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really interesting.
And so a texter brings up a good point. If the Bears just wasted a second-round pick on Chase Claypool, then they're not getting DeAndre Hopkins for a third-rounder. And that's where, I love playing Trade Machine and all of that stuff. I don't know the answer to that one. Hopkins is so good that you would think they'd ask for a first-round pick. He's amazing. But he's old and expensive.
Mm-hmm. And he wants an extension.
And so it limits the number of teams that he can go to because of the no trade clause. So that all of those things drive down the trade value.
Yeah.
So Claypool was young and cheap, but he's also bad. Hopkins is older and amazing, but he's expensive. So I don't know. I read an article by a beat reporter in the Arizona Republic yesterday before this report came out that was saying that they would certainly want a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins.
Wow.
But you'd want a lot of things. But that's just a reporter in Arizona. Who knows? I don't know. That is a complicated one to figure. I'm sure I could sit down and think about it. I don't have a lot of comps for 30-year-old top 10 receiver, expensive, with a no-trade clause, who could then say, I'll waive my no-trade clause if you give me a contract extension. Like, NFL players don't often have that type of leverage. Mm-hmm. So he's a tough trade comp in my opinion.
I admit that I am smitten sometimes with aged wide receivers who battle their ass off to stay in shape and stay in the league and stay healthy and active and fast.
But to your point, though,
Matt just tweeted that the other day.
I saw
on Facebook, something like that, talking about you being in love with aged wide receivers.
I always was. Derek Mason, that was my guy. Derek Mason just kept going and going and going. Donald Driver, even though he's on the hated Packers, guys who they find a way to stay healthy and fast.
Anquan Bolden, Larry Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Deshaun Jackson.
It's outrageous.
Deshaun Jackson this year still was getting behind safeties for 50-yard touchdowns.
Unbelievable.
The guy's 35 years old. He's still faster than like 98% of the league.
Now,
so where you at on Odell then? Is he old enough for you?
No.
he
Odell's too hurt.
He's
Odell's
a
too
wilf.
hurt. Yeah.
A wideout.
Like that. Franchise? I don't know, like the franchise?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever it means to you.
No, but it's also, guy who takes an edible and gets confused on an airplane and makes everybody get off the airplane. It kind of hurts me. It kind of hurts me to my core. As a traveler.
You're ruling out NFL players who take edibles?
No.
You got nobody on your team.
As long as they force everybody off the airplane, I think that's above and beyond.
DeAndre Hopkins, though, to your point, 4 of his first 5 games back, he had a 14-target game, a 13-target game, a 14, and a 12. 10 catches, 12 catches, 10 catches, 9 catches, 103, 159, 98, and 91 receiving yards. So 4 of his first 5 games back were absolute monster performances. And then, honestly, he had 3 other double-digit target games with 7, and only 1 catch. He had 10 targets and 1 catch in the game against Tampa in Week 16?
It's weird.
What happened in that game?
Isn't that the one where Kyler got hurt and it was Colt McCoy? Wasn't that game?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up to see how many passes. No, it was
Trace McSorley.
It's
Trace McSorley.
How could DeAndre Hopkins have 10 targets and 1 catch?
Because Trace McSorley was throwing the ball.
That's a good.
I love these texters hopping in with Steve Smith, Heinz Vold, like some of the old wide receivers of my youth. Here's the thing. We've seen wide receivers who are really good as veterans get traded for low draft picks. So sometimes it's not a lot of draft compensation and it's just money. So there's a lot of factors as you have delineated and discussed. This model of giving up very little in draft capital for a proven number 1 for Justin Fields is my model of choice.
Well, and if whatever they want to do, they can afford. That's what's fun about this. They can just totally absorb the contract. No problem. If he didn't need an extension to waive the no-trade clause, you could just be like, yeah, okay. We'll take it.
Okay, look, we'll take
the cap hit. It's not a problem.
I'm gonna have a lot of folders as we approach these 4 months. I'm gonna have a wide receiver trade target folder. Like in your conversations with the Houston Texans, as you try to entice them to swap up from 2 to 1,
right?
Because you're saying, hey, the Indianapolis Colts, so they really want to jump up from 4 to 1. If you want Bryce Young, you're gonna have to jump up from 2. Brandon Cooks is like a throw-in from Houston. Like, go ahead and give me Brandon Cooks in addition to whatever other draft compensation you're going to give me. Just as Michael Pittman will be that guy that you're trying to tell the Colts, we need Michael Pittman as long with everything else.
Well, and Michael Pittman's very good and young. DeForest Buckner is very, very good and in his prime, right? 28. Quentin Nelson is very good. That's probably its own segment or hour at some point of these next 100 shows of all the hypotheticals is honestly, do you think if Ryan Poles traded down from 1, is he interested in A, all of the draft picks?
Uh-huh.
Or is he interested in B, a draft pick, like a premium draft pick or two, and an established piece or two?
Yeah.
Because he could afford to take on the money.
There's so many segments. There's so
There really
many
are.
thought experiments.